Hello again. I am delighted to see liberals, progressives, globalists and left-wingers agonising this morning over the results of the elections to the European Parliament. In France, for example, Marine Le Pen's National Rally gained twice as many votes as President Macron's Renaissance, causing him to call an election. This reminds me of the time that the British Prime Minister Edward Heath called an election in 1974 to decide who rules. He soon found that out, and it wasn't him. What I find really odd is a change in perspective which has led to those of us who hold what you might describe as traditional views finding ourselves being denounced as being far right. This was very clear when you look at the parties which gained in the European elections and how they're being described in the newspapers this morning. Not so very long ago, believing in the existence of nation states with strong and defensible borders was simply the default setting for those of all political persuasion. When did such an idea become associated only with right-wing extremism? When did condemnation of illegal immigration become a sign of belonging to the far right? Once upon a time, almost everybody, especially those on the left wing, held freedom of speech and lack of censorship to be vitally important aspects of a free democracy. Why is it that today anybody who calls for free speech is treated like a crypto-fascist? Supporting law and order is also viewed with suspicion, along with holding the view that children at school should be taught to read and write, rather than encouraged to question their sexuality or gender. Remember too when science was held to be more important than ideology. These days, of course, the ideology of sex and gender trumps science, unless you are far right, that is. What has happened, of course, is that those with globalist ideas have more or less hijacked politics in Europe, and nowhere has this been seen more clearly than in Britain. Many of our politicians now owe their allegiance not to us, the British people, but to foreign doctrines and ideologies about which the ordinary man in the street here knows little. This is why both main political parties are so keen on mass immigration, of course, for it dilutes the population in this country which wishes for Britain to retain a recognisable identity as a separate nation state, with its own cultures and traditions, and borders which are clearly delineated and impermeable. For those of us who feel this way, the events in Europe are cause for celebration, and we must hope that Marine Le Pen and the National Rally sweep to power in the coming election. Perhaps there is hope that with a new mood, we might ourselves take a stand and rid our political system of all the quislings and fifth columnists who are currently beavering away against our interests on behalf of a group of internationalists who do not really have our own interests at heart.